Good morning, good afternoon. I think we're live right now. My name is Jean-Luc, and I'll be hosting this webinar. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes now for more attendees to show up on this webinar. Let me just prepare the presentation, and then we're just going to wait a couple of minutes for more attendees to come in. Like I said, my name is Jean-Luc Sayard. I'm working with the solutions team. I'm joined on this call with my brilliant colleague, Andy Nicolin, who's in charge of our machine learning team. Myself, I do AI for a hobby. That's his job. So hopefully you'll enjoy the presentation today. Just give us a couple minutes. We're just waiting for more people to join. What would be actually pretty cool right now is if you join the presentation, the webinar, you'll see that we have an option to post questions and to chat. Might be interesting for people that are joining right now to ping us and tell us where they're joining from. It's always interesting to see where people are calling from. So just use the chat. Just tell us where you are at the moment. Maybe you're just like sipping some coffee, enjoying a late evening drink, depending where you're located. So that would be pretty cool. Just go ahead, and it's always nice to see where people are calling from. So we have some people from Orlando here, Italy. Look at this, so perfect. So keep them coming. We have people from Canada, Barcelona. Here we go, Washington D.C. So that's great. We have people from different countries. Wonderful. So all right, perfect. So just give us once again another minute or two, and then we'll start the presentation. This is great. I think we're going to have a good time today. This is going to be very interesting for most of us. All right, Houston, Texas. Here we go. All right, don't be shy. Just introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling from. Philadelphia, we're neighbors. I'm in New Jersey, Mark. So not far from each other here, across from the bridge.
I'm on Barcelona side. I'm based of Lisbon, Portugal.
There you go. Sao Paulo, someone that you can communicate with in Portuguese, Andy.
Não falo bem português, desculpa.
There you go. Perfect. Wonderful. All right. Okay. So I think at this time we can get started with the presentation. We have more and more people are going to be coming. Hopefully, we have a nice audience. So today's presentation is going to be about Smartcat AI prompt engineering. So we'll talk about how you can prompt the AI in Smartcat to increase the quality of the translation and hopefully to increase the throughput of the translation. Again, my name is Jean-Luc Sayard, and then I'm joined here by my colleague Andy Nicolin. So here we go. So let's start with the agenda. So we want to focus on one item on the generative AI capabilities in Smartcat. As you can see here, we have in Smartcat, AI editing prompts is something we're going to focus on today. But in Smartcat, we have a lot of AI that's built in. For example, most of you are using AI for translation already, but we have AI in Smartcat that helps you with like freelancer selections, for example. We also have AI built in for transcription. If you translate videos, not everybody knows, but in Smartcat, you can upload videos or audio files, and then AI is used to transcribe the video into text and to translate it. We are also building into Smartcat AI voiceover. This is something that Andy's team is working on right now, and hopefully this will be released very soon. So this is going to be very cool as well. And we also have AI content creation. This is something that Smartcat is going to build in the application very soon. And you'll hear from us regarding this topic. This is not going to be a topic for today's presentation, but you'll see like eventually in the next couple of months, I'm sure we'll have another webinar to talk about this. And of course, we have also something else, which is something to allow you to use AI to customize transition engines. This is not going to be a topic for today's conversation specifically when we can do fine tunings and things of that nature, but you'll see, we'll show you examples on how you can use prompts to get different output from the AI transition in Smartcat. Now, at the end of this presentation, what we want to do, we just want to bore you We don't want to bore you just with slides. We're going to also make something very interactive. So Andy's going to make demos of the capabilities inside the editors. I can also demo some other options on how you can, for example, use prompts to get different output from your transition engines. Also, what we did ask for participants is if you, for example, had some files that you wanted to test. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if we received any so far, but what we would like to do is to keep this as interactive as possible. So there's a Q&A session. There's a section. There's also some chat. If you would like to see something tested, you're more than welcome to post something. Andy and I will look at it, and we'll see if we can replicate some of those quests, that you're trying to do, some of those queries. For example, if you want to see if it's possible to prompt an engine to do something else, just ask us, post something in the Q&A section. That would be very cool. Once again, we try to keep that as interactive as possible. And then we'll still have a Q&A session at the end, more technical, maybe if you have other questions, not just related just to the prompt themselves, but we can answer other questions as well. And then we'll just wrap up the session. And for some of you, that'll be the beginning of a long holiday weekend. And for some of us, it'll just be the beginning of a working day. So that's it for the agenda. Let's get started with going into the actual content here. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus today on using prompts. So maybe prompt engineering to customize the output that you get with your transition engines. And then, so I'm going to let Andy discuss some of the topics that we're going to cover and also what's inside the Smartcat. So Andy, you got the mic.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jean-Luc, for the warm introduction. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at the moment. My name is Andy Nicolin. I'm a senior product manager in our team here at Smartcat, and I'm very thrilled to be talking today here. I'm hoping we have enough time to cover everything that Jean-Luc mentioned already. So without further ado, let me jump in. So we have roughly 50 people on the call right now, hoping we get more. And since we don't know the basic, the level of the AI ML knowledge on the team, let us dive into a bit of a LLM basics and machine learning basics before we dive into the demo and the presentation. So large language models have significantly influenced not only the field of artificial intelligence and natural language understanding, but also the everyday life of the people like you and me. You probably hear about GPT, LLM every day now, if not every hour. So Smartcat as a company at the front end of innovation has adopted cutting-edge LLM models to enhance the language processing and the translation capabilities. Today, we're going to demystify LLMs a bit, breaking down what they are, how they operate, and revealing how you can harness the power of LLMs within the Smartcat to achieve accuracy and efficiency in your translations. So what are the LLMs? In simple terms, large language models are advanced algorithms that were trained on the vast quantities of text data in a huge number of languages. Would it be newspaper articles, books, the web pages, the websites, and even conversations. So this training enabled the models to understand, interpret, and generate the human language in a way that's remarkably sophisticated. And initially, the models were trained to predict the probability of the certain sequence of the word or part of the words occurring together. But however, the outcome exceeded the expectations. Basically, speaking in a plain human language, the result wasn't planned in the beginning. So the outcome exceeded expectations, enabling the models to generate relevant responses based on the given context. The foundation for large language models is a type of neural networks known as transformers. Introduced in 2017, transformers have revolutionized the way machines understand the human text since then. So today on the market, we have different types of large language models. Each of them serve different or slightly different purposes. And obviously the first and the foremost one made by OpenAI back in 2018 is called GPT. So it's still being one of the top engines and models out there. But there are many others. You've probably heard of some of them. Gemini, Mistral, Anthropic, and others are in the market right now. The large language models, as you know, has appeared just lately, a couple of years back, and they are changing very quickly. And not only in the amount of LLMs available in the market, but also in the way they operate. So normally LLM is working on the one kind of data, text. That's what the second L in LLM stands for, large language models. But lately there is a rise of so-called multimodal LLMs. So they are those are the models that are trained or a combination of data, whether it be text, pictures, sounds, videos, etc. So those models are way more powerful and offer way more capabilities. But we are not covering them today. It's just to lay some basics and background behind the LLMs. So how the LLMs work? Large language models like GPT use concept of prompt engineering. So we have prompt in the webinar title, and we have it on every slide. So what the prompt is? So prompt is the instruction, basically instructing, sorry, no pun intended, instructing the text, instructing the model of the expected outcome. So basically you, by providing the prompt to the model, you instruct it of what you want to do. For example, if you want to use LLM to generate text, you provided the prompt. For example, once upon a time in a land far away, and you send it to the model, you will get the model to continue the fairy tale story and generate the story after that. If you send the prompt, translate the following English text into French, for example, as a result, and provide the text, obviously, as a result, you will get the translation back. Sometimes, and quite often, you will not only get the translation, but the model might engage a bit and start explaining and giving you the reasons why that or one or another word was translated one way or another, but it will get the job done. The prompts can be very simple, as those mentioned already, or they can be quite sophisticated ones. For example, you can ask the model to write an essay arguing a particular point of view. So you will get, as a result, depending on the model you use, you will get an essay. And if you use top models, you would be, if you haven't done it in the past, I hope you did, you'll get quite surprised by the quality of the outcome of the models. So the art of prompting can drastically enhance the result obtained from the model. So that's why there is the whole industry or profession even, which is called prompt engineering or prompt engineers appearing on the market and quite in demand right now. Just like asking the right question can lead to the better answer in the conversation, providing a well-crafted prompt can guide the model to produce the higher quality and more relevant, contextually appropriate outcome. Today, we will demonstrate several tasks that can be solved using large language models in Smartcat, along with the examples of the prompts for these tasks. So you should be fully equipped for the use of those after today's webinar. So now let's talk about the Smartcat and how Smartcat is harnessing the power of LLMs to benefit you as our users. As Jean-Luc already mentioned, we have several areas in Smartcat where LLMs are employed. Those would be AI actions, AI assistant, or AI translation engine customization. Due to the limitation, we'll only cover the AI actions and AI engine presets today. Don't hesitate to reach out to us offline after the webinar if you have questions about other use cases of the LLMs and AI in the Smartcat. We're happy to answer those. But on that point, I would like to jump in and start the live demo. Let's see if I can do that easily. I want to share my Chrome. All right. All righty. Give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. Hopefully you do. All righty. Thank you very much. All right. Good. So in order to start, so where do we start? We start at the home screen, as you probably know. Maybe in many cases we jump off the home screen. You don't have to do anything. You just type smartcat.com, and down at the bottom you would see our workspace settings. So as you click there, you would get to the screen with the different settings screens. You would need to click on the drop down and select NT Engines presets. We call them AI Engines presets. So in here, don't pay attention to those. I have some presets available here. So in order to start, you would click the Add Preset button. So let me do that. And you would choose among the other presets, again, out of scope for today's conversation, click on AI GPT. And in here, you would need to enter the credentials for OpenAI. And what you see here on the screen, you would see two parts. So basically the top part is the configuration screen. So here you would specify the name of the preset, for example, demo 2803. Optional comment if you want. You can choose, depending on credentials provided, you can choose one of the models available to your subscription of OpenAI. Let me choose latest and greatest GPT-4. Let's keep this one. I'll talk about that later if we have time. Looks like we are on time still. And now, interesting part comes in. So there are two edit sections. So the system prompt and the user prompt. We will not dive into the details of the differences between system prompt and user prompt for now. We can consider them as the instructions go to the system prompt, and the input text or input would go to the user prompt. So if you stick to that should be good for today's webinar. So that's the configuration part. And the bottom part is the playground, where you can try the configuration set above and see the results, the outcomes. So you can correct them as needed and engineer the prompt the way it produces the expected, desired results. And then once done, once completed, you would click Save button to save the preset. Again, we'll be talking about how to use those presets just in a bit, but let me start with the use cases that you can solve with AI actions. Okay, just give me a quick second. Right. So very simple one. So what we can do, we can translate using LLMs. So as you know, there are tons of translation engines out there. You can select any of those, but you can also leverage the LLM to do the translation for you. So for that, you would put in a prompt. Let me make it a bit bigger here. I'm going to close that one. Right. So what the prompt says is that you are a translator. So basically, you are defining the role of the language model. You specify source in the language models. There is a set of the placeholders in the Smartcat that you can use. Not too many, but still, I'm going to cover those as we go. So source language and the target language will be automatically fulfilled during the use of the prompt. So you are a translator from source to target language. Translate the text. So you give it an instruction, clear instruction of what you want model to do. Your entire response must be a translation without any explanation. As I mentioned briefly in the beginning, the model might, the answer from the model might deviate from what you want exactly. So quite often you would need to narrow down the the expectation. So you want only the translation to be an outcome of that. And for the input, I want to use another placeholder which is the source text. So that would be a preset, for example. Let's give it a try. So for the source text, I am using the hello and welcome to Smartcat webinar. And for the source, I want to choose English. For the target, I want to choose Spanish. Yo no hablo español, but let me just use it for the demo purposes. I'm hoping a bunch of participants on the call to speak. So since we are using only the source text and we are intending to do the translation, obviously we leave the target empty, which is not used. So as I configure, first of all, we configure the prompts at the top part, and the second, I configured the inputs here. I click run, and as a result, you would see the result. So this is the translation. So LLM, large language models, made fulfill the instruction to perform the translation. As we see, it's clearly Spanish, and we'll talk about the quality of the translation just in a bit. It's just to give you an example that here's the translation. Can we make it more complex? And it's not a surprise, right? Many engines out there can translate, even Iron or Fridge can translate these days. So what else it can do? It can do a specialized translation. What does it mean? So, for example, imagine you want to translate the legal documentation. So you would change the prompt. So you would put the same instruction here. You're a translator from source to target language, and you want the model. You instruct the model to translate the following text in a domain, law, and legal. And we'll just instruct it to put only the translation as a result. And let's see if there is a difference. We'll choose the different example for the source. So in this case, I obviously cherry picked the example here because I know that the power in Spanish is translated differently for general sense and for the legal field. So let's before we jump into the legal part, let's remove that to see what's the generic translation would give us. We still need to say translate the text because otherwise model doesn't know what to do. Translate the text. All right, let's hit run. And we get the, oh, sorry, not wrong field, not here, just this here. So let's see. And there you go, we have a translation. So in that translation, we see that the word power gets translated with poder. And if we go back to the complex case and we want it translated to in a legal field, we'll update that and hit translate. Let's copy that just for the comparison purposes. There you go. This is what we get as a translation. So that translation in the LLM's mind and GPT's mind is the more suitable for the domain legal and law, and this is the translation for the general text domain. So that's the other use case. If you have texts or you have materials with a certain domain and you want the translation to stick to that domain, rather than the generic domain, you can do that by prompting the model to stick to the certain domain or domains. It's not necessarily one. All right, so what's next? We still, since Smartcat is a translation platform, let's stick to a couple more translation examples. So if you have glossaries, if you have terminology available in a Smartcat, you can leverage that in the translations. So what the prompt says in that case, translate the following text from source to target. No, nothing new here. make the translation sound natural as possible. Okay, that's another modification to the prompt that helps the model to choose the best translation. And there is a bit of a programming along with the prompt engineering here. So if there is a glossary term in the text, in the source text, in the input user prompt, then you must use the translation for the glossary, and then glossaries are taken from the from the placeholder, and then we close that. Again, those are the placeholders that can be used in the prompts in a Smartcat. So that would be the prompt, and we use source text placeholder as a user prompt. So we still use English to Spanish. We use the same as the first one, and there's at the bottom. You see, let me remove that. You would see that there is a way to add glossary terms for the sake of the sandbox. Later, the glossary terms automatically get withdrawn, get taken from the workspace of the Smartcat account. So let's do the translation as is. So there are no terms added at this point. I hit run, and here's the result. So the webinar is translated as al seminario web, which is fine. But for example, we don't want to use the al seminario web. So I want to use webinar. I want a webinar to stay as webinar. I'm adding that glossary term and hit run again. And voila. Now, as instructed, large language model has translated the initial text and used the terminology from down below. And so another translation use case. Can we do anything fancier to that? We can. A couple more examples. Just bear with me for a couple more minutes. So what if? Okay, let's talk about one important thing. So everything we've spoken before is in regards to the translations with LLMs. You might know that LLMs are not always best for the translation qualities, as they just lately appeared, and they are trained basically on for the different purpose, not for the translation purpose exclusively. And the history of the NLM, neural machine translation model engines for the translation is going like 3, 5, 7 years back. Those models are still showing great results for the translations. So if you translate the text with LLM, it might not give you the best translation result out there. So what can be done? You can translate the text with best fit MT engine or the engine of your choice, would it be a DeepL, Google, Modern MT, Microsoft, you choose. And then you can apply machine translation on top of it to correct the things that could happen during the translations. Why that might be important, why that might be the case. For example, if you ever translated with Google, and if you ever use the Google glossaries for the translation, you might know that Google doesn't do a good job of the implementing the glossary. So, for example, if the source term of the glossary is feminine and the target is masculine, you quite often in languages like Spanish, you would see the mixed articles. So article would be a feminine and the term will be a masculine, etc. DeepL does a bit of a better job into the putting correct inflections for the articles and the sentences overall, but Google in particular is not very good at it. So what can be done? You can do the translation first and then engineer the prompt, which says, correct the following text, and if the glossary term is translated correctly, then make sure the glossary term is translated correctly with appropriate inflections. And in this case, we already need, we not only need source, we also need target. So let me capture some samples. So that would be a source and a target. And we want to introduce a different power, would be poder in that case. And we probably need some modifications here. Right, so for the user prompt, we need target now because we are taking the target and correcting it because we assume the target is already translated. So hit run, and what we see, nothing changed because it was initially correctly provided. But what if we put the term which is synonym to the previous one, but it's a feminine word now. So as you can see, we see the change. Okay, let me. So now it's la fuerza, as before it was el poder. So, for example, if we get a incorrect translation, previous translation from an engine, like in this case, mixing the masculine article with a feminine noun, and I want to change that. The LLM will do the good job of the correcting mistakes of the previous translations. All right, last but not least thing that I wanted to oh no, actually a couple more. So I have a couple more minutes. So what else can be done? A bit of outside, but still related to the translations. We have cases, we have cases where machine translation doesn't understand or doesn't have enough context or just doesn't want to do that. So for example, if we want a speech that directed to a female or male, sorry, that's a different case, comes from a female or male, we also can cover that with the LLM prompts. So the prompt goes, change the following text in the target language. So again, we're referring to some pre-translated materials. So that direct speech comes from female perspective. And if, again, in many cases, when LLM doesn't want to do it, it starts hallucinating, starts doing crazy things. So we need to instruct it what to do if there is no direct speech, or if what model sees is not acceptable for the prompt. So if there is no direct speech, return the unmodified original text. And for the user text, we use the target, and source would be, this case, I'm doctor, and target would be soy doctor. That's the feminine, the way like it comes from the male. And I hit run, and that's the result. So now it's soy doctora, meaning that it's a female speaking. Another use case, and related but slightly different case, if the text is referring to a male or female. So rephrase the following text in the target text to address a female. If not sure, return unmodified text. And let's have an example as you're handsome. It's not necessary because you're referring target text, and source text doesn't go into the equation, but still, just for the reference and for the recording. Hola, guapo. Again, referring to the male person. And here's what we get. Hola, guapa, meaning that LLM figured it out and executed what we asked it to do in the prompt. And last but not least, one of the things that I wanted to specifically to show is that LLM can evaluate the quality of the translation. So let me give you an example. You're a decorated linguist. Again, a bit of a complication of the prompt. So we are not only saying you are translating, but we are saying that you are a good translator, meaning that the model will try to do the best job possible. Take a deep breath. That's another kind of trick to deal with the prompt engineering. you want model to kind of incentivize into getting the best results. So take a deep breath is one of the things that by statistics, I guess, were detected as bringing better results. Take a deep breath and for the given source language text and its target language translations, estimate the quality of the translation of the quality 1 to 10. Yeah, you can put your scale here. Print only the unchanged translation first, and then the estimation number in the square brackets. And for the user prompt, we need to change here because we want to have all the information: source language text, source text, target language text, and target text. And let's try this example. Welcome to webinar. And that would be the translation. If we had run, you would see that we get the unchanged the translation back, and LLM estimated the quality of this translation as 9 for whatever reason. Maybe, okay, if close return, nope, nothing changed. If, for example, as we know, we wanted to use webinar here, el webinar. Oh, sorry, not here. Webinar in here, and I hit run. So for some reason, the LLM thinks that the quality of the translation reduced. Probably because it's further, not probably. Because the reason it's doing it, because the translation we provided is deviating from the normal translation, and normal translation would be, as we've seen in the very beginning, would be el seminario dep for that. And yeah, and the other example would be, for example, if you want Apple, if you put Apple here, obviously this is not the Apple webinar, but to ride the hype. So let's see what LLM thinks, right? So LLM thinks that there's a significant inconsistency in translation comparing to the original one for obvious reason. And it gives the mark 5 on the scale from 1 to 10. Right, so that's it for the samples, and we are quickly running out of time. So let me show you how you can leverage that. And that's where enable and the editor action comes in play. So as you click that toggle, you'll be given the option to provide the caption. Let's, for example, give it a thumbs up icon. And as I save it, as you can see, I have now the additional OpenAI GPT preset. And as I go to any of my projects now, let's choose a project. Oops, wrong one. This one. Right, so there is an icon, AI action icon at the editor. So as you click on that, you would be given all the presets. There is a set of built-in Smartcat presets, plus the AI presets that we've been just looking at. And here's the one I've just added. So as I select a cell or segment or a set of segments, like in this case, I selected 3, and I click that AI prompt would be executed for those segments, meaning that is the 10, that is the best possible translation from the LLM perspective for that source and the target. And that concludes the presentation. So on this note, I'd like to give it back to Jean-Luc for AI Engine presets demo. Jean-Luc, are you with me?
Thank you, Andy. Wonderful. By the way, I've been answering questions. If you have more questions, go ahead and post them. We'll answer them after I make this quick presentation. So let me just share my screen again, and I'll show you a different aspect of what you can do with this this prompting. So let me share my Smartcat uh, account as well. So here we go. Oh, this is not the, sorry, need to, I'm sharing a different screen. I have too many screens. I think first world problem, right? Too many screens to share. So let me see if I can share this screen right here. Perfect. I mean, I was in Smartcat as well, but all right, share my screen. That should be the correct one here. All right. So now you have access. You see my screen. Now, I want to go back into what Andy was showing, which is this empty engine presets. And what Andy was showing you is the fact that you can enable those engine presets as an editor action. But what happens if you wanted to, for example, have a prompt an engine to process full documents? That's the other option that we offer you. So here, for example, instead of checking this enable as an editor action, I'm just making this as a possibility for me to process, to use this prompted engine into a project. And for example, in this case, I've called this engine language learners. And you can see I made the prompt right here. And I know there was a questions about, we have those curly brackets. It says source language, target language, glossary terms. Those are system variables that you need to use in your prompt for the system to understand. So for example, we say transit from a source language, that would be the source language in a project. Target language would be the target language for the project, and so on and so forth. So you need to use those uh, into your prompt. And then you can see in this case, I've prompted a system to say your entire response must be a transition in the simplified version of the target language, suitable for language learners without any explanation. Of course, we're going to test the languages. We're going to test for glossary terms as well. But the result and is something like this, for example, like, and this is what I've done here is I've taken even from English to English US using this simplified version, and I picked up something on the web about existentialism, which is probably something that would be hard to explain to begin with for language learners. But this is like, you can see that I've taken the text in English. It says existentialism is a form of philosophical inquiry that explores the issue of human existence. And it's being converted by the AI to something that's a little bit easier to understand. Existentialism is a type of philosophy that looks into the question of human life, and so on and so forth. So you can see, like, you can really simplify the text very easily. So you could start with an English text and end up with an English text. So you could start with an English text, end up with a French text that's simpler to understand for people who might not be, for example, fully fluent into the language. So that's one of the things that you could do in here. And then one of the another preset that I've done that could be possibly interesting is, for example, a legal one. So I have, like, for example, if you want to interpret legal terms, you can see I have like a similar prompt, transit the following legal text, simplifying the language and structure to make it more accessible to a general audience, and so on and so forth. And same thing, I've also created a document, a legal document, and I've used some of the Smartcat terms of services. So nothing super crazy, but you can see here, for example, it said you must create an account and provide certain information about yourself, no, and so on. And then the transition into something that's easier to understand for people be to use this platform. You need to make an account and give some information about yourself, and you can see there's like the fee for each service task is calculated according to the rate, and the cost for each job figure out is based on the rate listed for that job in your supplier's account, and so on and so forth. So it's really a way to make, for example, legal text much easier to understand. And again, you can use it from English to English or English to other languages. I'm just showing you English to English because we have a lot of customers that come to us and say, hey, it'd be great if I would be able to simplify the text that's provided to me because for example, I'm working on L&D courses. And at the same time, sometimes it makes it hard to understand for the people that are taking the course because my engineers might give me something that's very difficult to understand. So you could use this as even to simplify your English text. And then the final one that I did, which I think is also pretty cool, is that I did something to do a cultural adaptation. So you can see here, same thing. I've created a prompt from source language to target language. And you must also make sure to convert cultural references, convert locations related to the country where the target language is spoken, appropriate units of measurements and currencies. And then what's going to happen is that you get the result like this one, for example, here, when I'm going to talk about where I live. It says I drove 60 miles on the famous New Jersey Turnpike. And it mentions that, that I've driven 96.56 kilometers on the A1 highway in France. Actually, that's the highway that links Paris to the north of France. And if you fly to France, you'll be using this A1 highway when you go from Charles de Gaulle to Paris, and you'll probably be stuck for hours in traffic there, but that's a separate discussion. And then you can see also that, I'm talking about a 3/8 of an inch pipe that's 3 feet and 2 inches long. We do the conversions into metric systems in this case. And this is actually pretty good that you can get 4 digit into inches and meters, which is probably not something that people will be using on a daily basis. But I could have prompted the system to say, hey, can you also round up the numbers only to 2 decimals, not 5 decimals? Same thing, we even did the conversions from dollars to euros. Now, this is not today's conversion rate, so don't look at it to make your purchases online today, but this is something we can do as well. Talk about temperature. And you can see even in this case, I converted the location. In my English, I talk about 85 degrees Fahrenheit in Miami on Independence Day. We did a complete cultural adaptation, talking about 29 degrees Celsius in Nice, in France, so southern France, same thing as southern US. And we talk about the Fête Nationale, which is, the Bastille Day in France, as opposed to Independence Day. Instead of talking about baseball game in the World Series, we talk about a World Cup football game. So again, complete cultural adaptation. And the final one, talking about the team traveling 16 miles and being hosted by the president at the White House in Washington. We talk about going 26 kilometers, like, and being hosted by the president of France in the Elysee Palace in Paris. So those are the type of things that you can do using AI by prompting the system, telling it to do some cultural adaptations, telling it to do some text adaptation for legal text that you want to be easier to understand, or technical text that makes it easier to understand. So what Andy showed you is that all those different adaptations you can do on a per sentence basis. And what I just showed you is the adaptations that you can do to apply, for example, to an entire document. Both are super useful for your translators. You can produce a full document, and if they don't like the translation that's being produced, for example, here, if the system produced a translation that was adapted only for a male participants, using one of Andy's prompts, I'll be able to convert this translation to something that's more directed toward, for example, the female audience. So those are the type of things that we can do in Smartcat. So that's it for my side. I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to start answering some questions. I think we have additional questions on the Q&A side, and maybe even some on the chat. For example, I have a question from Fiona. At the moment in our project, the GPT preset with prompt does not work for strings that have tags, yellow tags for markups. Whenever there's formatting in the source, in these cases, the preset automatically falls back to another translation machine. To know workaround and how GPT preset works on string with tags too. Thank you. So, Fiona, I think we probably might need to go over some examples with you. Be more than happy to get on the call with you if needed. So maybe contact your customer success manager or salesperson, and then we can jump on the call. We'll be happy to try to solve these problems. For sure, tags is something that we have to deal with all the different engines. So we explained the curly bracket. Are there any other questions that I've missed? Maybe on people have posted, I think, on the chat as well. Questions about what tier has access to LLM GPT transition tools. You will have access to GPT translation with any subscriptions. But if you want to be able to customize it, then speak to your customer success manager as well, depending on the subscription level that you have. I cannot answer that during the presentation. What other values can we offer in the user prompt section? That's a question, I think, for you, Andy. In the user prompt section, what other values can we add? Like, for example, how do people know that they can and cannot use any user prompt? So this is something that maybe you could answer, Andy, in the user side, in the user prompt, what you can add, as opposed to the system prompt.
Sorry, got distracted for the moment. Basically,
The difference between a system prompt and a user prompt, so what
right,
can people add to the user prompt, so.
right. So what we usually recommend doing. So system prompt is where you put what you want model to do. You put the preconditions and post conditions in there, and the user prompt is the what's changing, right? So for example, you put the prompt to instructing model to do certain things, and then the user prompt will, if it's the placeholder with curly brackets, it will take the content of each cell of the document if you use it the way Jean-Luc has shown, or is either you use it with AI action. So consider system prompt to be an instruction and preconditions and post conditions, and the user prompt is the text itself that needs to be taken action on.
Okay. There's a question for you, Andy, possibly also. Does this prompting also work well with when you're working with languages with cases?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, the important thing to keep in mind is that not all the languages born equal, right? So there are so-called low resource languages. So the models, usually the models, when they're trying, they take the data, and obviously the vast majority of the data is English data. That's why the LLMs, the language models, show the best results in English. But as you try other different languages, you would see the quality degrading, and the more rare language you're trying to translate, probably the worst results would be. But the languages with cases, not necessarily the low resource languages. So yes, it works well, but as you go, like one of the low resource languages to mention would be Armenian language, and one of the complex languages out there. You might probably see some unexpected results, but usually you would see good results for the languages with cases. Yes, correct.
There are some technical questions, by the way. You just wanted to point out that on the right side, that we have quick help that explains some of the terms that are used in curly brackets in the prompting. And then also we have a GPT prompting for Smartcat help file that you can also go into and see some additional examples. And also, I know there's been some questions about how do we construct prompts and everything. So here you go, you'll be able to see quick help. We don't have a lot of variables. There's only a couple of variables for now, but this is where you could actually get started. So other questions that we might have. Work with, okay, we covered that already. I think there was a question also from Joanne. We're talking about nice examples of oblique translation. Do you have other examples with more complex oblique translation methods like linguistic additions, modulations? Does that make sense to you, Andy, maybe?
We do, and I would encourage to come again to us offline or on a different occasion, and we're happy to discuss those.
All right.
I've just dropped the link to one of the knowledge base articles here on the prompts and examples here. Just capture that if you want to discover more.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. Anyone else? If everybody's got their answers, everybody found some useful information, give us maybe a thumbs up. That would be appreciated on our side. We would definitely, wonderful, perfect. So hopefully you learned something today on Smartcat. You'll probably, that could make your experience easier, better. Andy and I worked a little bit on this to make sure that we had a more interactive type of demo. So we'll be happy to see you again in the future webinars. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, I think in some of the QAs, contact your customer success managers or your salesperson, and then we can jump on the call if needed to have more personalized instructions. In the meantime, thank you very much for attending this webinar. There will be a recording posted of this webinar eventually, so you'll be able to, you'll get a link and you'll be able to view it again if you missed part of it. Have a good rest of the day. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Andy, for joining. It was wonderful. And
Thank
we'll
you,
see you in the
Jean-Luc.
next
Thank you,
webinar.
everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.